Good morning, everyone. Gosh, way to pour in on time. Welcome and thank you for being here this morning. We're going to get going right away. I've got a lot to cover today, so thank you for being on time. If you wouldn't mind, just to get started, hi, Hannah. Pop in, introduce yourself in the chat. If you are new to our webinar series, this is a little different than Zoom, so you're not going to see your face on the screen. This is webinar format, so I'll be sharing my screen most of the time. But you can still chat on the side, and please pop in, let us know where you're from, what kind of studio you've got, and why you're excited to be here today. My name is Laura Munkholm, and I am the president and one of the co-founders here at Walla. And I am very excited to do this webinar because not only do we hear from many of you that reporting is one of the ways Walla stands out, but it's something that's ever evolving in our product. And part of that is because of you. We are constantly listening to the questions you have about your client base, about your profitability, about your classes, your appointments. And we want to be able to give you as many answers as possible in a way that's really helpful so you can take action. So I think you'll see as we get going today, there are a couple of new things in our product that maybe you haven't seen yet, and also maybe some detail and description on some of the classic reports that you've been using since you got started. Hello, everyone. Thanks for introducing yourselves. I will say we have a whole host of people on this, from clients that have been with us since day one to people who are brand new on the software, and even some of you who are just checking out Walla and taking a peek at what we have to offer, but maybe not yet on the platform. So I'll do my best to make this approachable for everyone that's on here. And in the meantime, I've got details at the end if you'd like to follow up with us after for a deeper dive demo or have detailed questions. Now, for those of you that know you're not going to be able to stay for the whole event, we do send the recording out to everyone who has registered for this. So don't worry, you'll be getting a follow-up email shortly after the event with the recording. And that way, even for those of you that can stay the whole time, you can go back and watch this at any point. Okay, let me share my screen and we can get started. Okay. Recording webinar, share, and slideshow. Okay. First things first, I just want to tap in here and make sure you guys can all see my screen here, actually, before I get started. And make that a single screen so it's a little bigger for you. And great. All right. Our goal with our reporting is not only to help you really propel your studio's growth, so help you grow, be more profitable. Obviously, we're all in this as business owners to make money and make a difference, but we want to give you actionable data. So you'll see within Walla, that's really something we've focused on. And my guess is that most of you didn't start fitness and wellness businesses to spend hours in spreadsheets. So when we designed our product and designed our reporting, we really tried to make them visually appealing and almost obvious what needs to happen when you take a look at it. So some of our reports are very graph-based, some are almost task-oriented, where you've got a list of things that you need to take care of. But that's what we were going for. And as we've been developing and adding more reports, we've listened to your feedback and adjusted to make sure they're even better as we grow. Now, when we think about reporting, so this is something everybody talks about, KPIs, reports, how important they are in studio businesses, in any business, really. But it's all about decision-making. So I wanted to bucket the reporting in Walla and just generally reporting that you'd look at as a business owner into a few different areas, and what questions we're trying to help you answer with those kind of chunks. So the first is obviously the financial health of the business. And in today's webinar, I'm not going to spend quite as much time on the sales report and the financial side of the business because those are reports that are typically your go-to, your first. I'll dip into them, but it ends up being something that most people gravitate towards because that is the most critical lifeblood of your business. But there are some questions that you can also answer with some of our reports that might help you with deciding on your pricing or really helping to understand how much you can spend on payroll, for example. Now, the other sections are a little bit more about your clients and your staff. So we want to obviously be monitoring the client base on a regular basis. So we want to look at your membership. And when I say membership, I'm typically referring to plans that are recurring. So not that I'm disregarding people who purchase a one-time package. Those are certainly important and valuable people to your business. But when we're making decisions based on predictability in the business, I'm really talking about membership as far as recurring revenue. We also want to look at the pipeline. So we know as studio businesses that we are always going to have people falling off, right? We're going to have clients that churn, people that move, injuries, whatever happens in life. And you need to keep your pipeline strong and to constantly be driving new leads in the door. And what's going to help you with really, I guess, making the most of that pipeline all the way to when you potentially lose a client is understanding the critical points in the client journey. And if any of you watched my webinar last month when we talked about the game plan for 2025, we spent a lot of time talking about the client journey and really mapping out your own client journey. So I won't go into that today, but if that's interesting to you and an exercise that you really haven't spent a lot of time doing, I would highly encourage you to just take a creative day and map out your client journey so you can really think about when you want to be measuring and touching base with your clients. Now, lastly, we'll look at the staff and schedule decisions. So you've got decisions all day long with who you hire, which classes you give them to, what appointment availability you're going to offer, where to invest your time, your money, and what's actually working for your client base. So those are kind of the buckets we'll live in today as we dive into Walla's reporting. All right, so today is going to be quite an interactive, like in the software experience. So I'm going to be spending a lot of time navigating within the software and really clicking through reports so you can follow along with me in your software if you'd like. Just have maybe two screens side by side so you can click through if you're curious or if you've never seen that report before. But I'll pause from time to time just to pop in here in case there are any questions or confusion on any of those that I'm diving into. So I'll go ahead and share my software screen so we can dive right in there. Okay. So I'm going to be talking through my favorite 6 or 7 reports that maybe aren't, the most obvious when you start with Walla. And I'll talk about the answers we're trying to help you find and the decisions we're trying to help you make with these reports. So for all of you that are newer to the software or have never seen Walla before, we have a report center. And I often notice when I chat with some of our clients that you don't notice the favorites tab right here. So as we go through this, I highly encourage you, if you really like a report or if there's something that you're very excited about, make sure as we go into it, there's a little heart right next to each name that you heart that report and make it a favorite. That way it'll be listed on your favorites here. And then also when you open your daily recap, your favorite reports will be right at the top. First things first on the daily recap, the reason we have this here is because we understand when you pop into your software, it's nice to just look at like, okay, how did yesterday go? You can see what money is on the way to your bank, what your cash sales were, cash basis sales were yesterday, any new leads that came in or a new client that attended their first classes. Now, all of these are clickable. So if I go into that, it's going to show me the unique first-time visitor that came in. So you can dive into the details. But generally speaking, we want to make sure that you've got a quick snapshot, especially when it comes to money. so you can pop in. Oh, I was chatting with our bot earlier. Okay, so the first report I'm going to take you guys into is our plan gain loss report. So this is one of my favorite reports in Walla, and partly because of the visual that we offer you, but partly because this really does give you a picture of the health of the business from a predictability standpoint. So I'm going to look at this over the last 12 months. I kind of like seeing a graph over time. I think it's really telling. For those of you that are multi-location businesses, it's going to default to all locations. So you can always toggle down and look at this location by location. But as we get into the reporting a little later, I'm going to show you our KPI report. That's a really nice way to look at your locations side by side and compare them to each other. Okay, so when we look at this report, it's going to default to all plans that you sell. Now, you can look at it this way. In this case, I really do want to see my recurring plans, and I've designated all of those with member status in my software. Member status in Walla is going to do a couple things. First of all, it lets you select a group in reporting, so that's really helpful. But member status also does things like give early booking windows or discounts on retail, limit certain plans to members or certain classes or enrollments to members only. But in this case, I am going to be using that toggle there. Now, you can always look at this specific plan by specific plan, but right now I'm going to be selecting just my memberships. And as I go into this, you'll see obviously a graph right away. Now, you can say, I just want to see my new folks, or I just want to see the people who have canceled, or I just want to see the people who have changed. But I'm going to click on this or hover over this here, and you'll be able to see December. So we tried to put this in as natural language as possible, so it was very clear what you're looking at. But you'll see right away that I had a very slight increase from the previous month. So I started the month with 233 plans. During the month, I lost 5, so I retained almost everybody. That's fantastic. And I added 6, so I did have a net gain. And then the prior month, I had 6, I lost 6, I added 5. So you can kind of go through and check into all of these different data points. Now, this is a demo site. I play around with this data all the time. So yours might look slightly different. You might have much more dramatic increases, decreases. And, frankly, we're not canceling plans all the time. But if I do click into this, you'll be able to see right away who those people are. So maybe I just want to see my canceled folks. So I'll uncheck the people that changed, and then now I'll be able to see canceled. So I can see who those 3 people were, and I can go into their profiles and take a peek at what's going on. Maybe they canceled and it just hasn't finished yet, or they changed, or they canceled that membership and ended up buying something else later on. But either way, this is somebody I kind of want to take a peek at. I can look at his stats. Yeah, he just hasn't been coming. So this is somebody that I'm not surprised canceled, right? So, as we go into that plan gain loss report, the goal is really to not only give you a big picture view, but then also be able to get as granular as possible. So if there is someone that you want to reach out to, or if you see trends happening with certain types of memberships, then you can really dig into those details and look at the actual attendance history. Okay, so I'll stop sharing that, and hopefully for those of you that are in Walla now, using Walla consistently, that's a report that you lean on. And really here, we want to just give you a nice snapshot of how that recurring member base is going. And also, again, you can use that for any other plans. Like if you want to see how many, if you're having growth in a certain plan's purchases, like a 10-pack, or you're trying out an 8-pack 1 month or over a few months, you can really see the growth or decline of that there. Okay, so the next report I'm going to go into is one that I often find clients are surprised by or haven't checked out yet. So that's why I wanted to give you guys a nice, clear walkthrough. we're going to be popping into the plan retention report. So the goal of this report is to look at a specific plan type. So maybe it's going to be my monthly unlimited membership or my top tier recurring membership. And I want to understand, roughly how many months we're able to keep people active on that plan from the start date. So I'm going to select a plan here, and I have probably my most common plan in my demo site is my monthly unlimited membership. So as soon as I select that, it's going to give me my annual churn rate and my lifetime value. I can only hope some of you have crazy lifetime value like that. We've played around with pricing on this and made it cost $1,000 or $5,000, but you'll probably see a much smaller number than that. So don't be alarmed if it doesn't look like $25,000. Okay. So what I want to call your attention to here is kind of this waterfall style graph. So you can see in January 22 is when I started selling this membership. And at that point, I sold 17. So where we are now, I'm on month 37. I still have 41% of the folks that purchased that membership in January 22 active on the plan. So you can see here as we go, the color starts changing. So when it's dark blue, that means you've got a high number. Once it gets to 65% and below, actually 70%, I believe, and below, it starts getting a little lighter and then lighter as you go. So the thing to call attention to is if you see a dramatic change consistently, like if you look down this column and you see that month 3, month 4, month 2, month 8, whatever it is, you start to see a trend of when there is churn, when there are a lot of people canceling. That tells you from, thinking about decisions to make in the business, that's a great time to double down on your nurture efforts with your clients. So perhaps if, month 4 is when you see a pretty significant dip in active members on that plan. Month 3 might be where you double down on education about the benefits of certain classes, or you know, really encourage people who have only gone to one class at the studio to try a different style of class. So there are all kinds of retention strategies, and we've got webinars that go into different styles of retention. But it really can be helpful to engage those when you know there's a point when membership really starts to dip off. Now, the other thing here is that when you see the lifetime value of these folks, it's going to help you make decisions on how much you invest in trying to attract those people to your business. So, for example, if you know getting a monthly unlimited member, or maybe I'm going to look at this as an 8 times a month member as well, because I've got quite a few people on that membership. I know once I sell somebody on this, I'm going to make a lot of money. So it is well worth it for me to invest in marketing this specific membership, or perhaps even paying a staff member to sell these memberships, right? So that's the goal with the lifetime value, is to help you understand, okay, it's really worth it for me to invest heavily on the front end because this is what I'm going to make once we have that conversion. And then you can really start to play with goals for conversion rates, but we want to arm you with that information so you can decide how much to spend. Now, as we go down into this report, this is where you're going to get to the details. You can see I've got both of the different memberships here because I've selected monthly unlimited and the 8 times a month membership, but you can see the January cohort. So you can get into the details, you can see who's canceled, who's still active. And again, you can click on any of these and you can go in and take a look at their visit history and what happened. Maybe there's maybe there's a really consistent trend that once somebody dips under X number of classes a month, they're probably going to cancel a certain membership. So again, you can choose how deep you want to go into the data, but the opportunities here, because we offer you all of the individuals and the ability to go into their specific profiles. Okay, I'll stop sharing here because I know that's a report that not a ton of people use on a daily basis, or at least that I've spoken with. So hopefully that's helpful for you all. Just show of hands or thumbs up. Has anybody in here used that report regularly or to make decisions in their business at this point? Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I think this is going to be one that once you start playing around with it and looking at the value of the different memberships, it's really going to be telling, what's worth it to invest in the business. And maybe you'll find that certain memberships really don't have much of a lifetime value and it doesn't make sense to have them on your price list. Okay, next report. Um, yeah, it does need 12 months of data for the lifetime value. And sorry, thank you for saying that, Ashley. For the lifetime value and the annual churn, you do need 12 months worth of data in there. So you'll still be able to see when you sell them and if there is a month that they're churning in. You don't need 12 months of data just to see the waterfall version of that report, but you won't get the lifetime value and the churn until you have 12 months. Okay. Let me go back into the software here. And the next report we're going to be diving into is our first visit report. Now, this is typically a report that a lot of people are used to using in other software when they migrate over. Those of you who are brand new to being business owners, I highly encourage you to use this report on a regular basis, not only because you want to see all of the new people visiting your business, but you also want to see this critical stat at the top. So I'm actually going to go into a custom period and I'm going to go to last year and look at over a year period. Um, so first visits over the last year in my demo site here, I had 116 unique first-time visitors. 45% of them came back for at least one more class. So when I would do coaching with businesses prior to starting Walla, we always had a goal of at least 50% coming back in. So this is a stat that this business could be working on, right? I often see with businesses that have studios that have very difficult workouts, so very physically strenuous workouts, that number can be a little bit lower. And also businesses that offer a first class free, that number can end up skewing a little bit lower. So every business has a bit of a unique experience, but I would say shooting for that 50% number is really going to be helpful as far as keeping your pipeline strong and kind of filling in those memberships that you might lose over time. Now, one of the nice things about this report that I like is that you can toggle the lifetime visits. So you can see uh, if there's anybody who came in a ton of times, if there are people that only came once, you can check those boxes and you can actually message people directly from this report. So if you do have people, let's say it was over last week or a couple weeks and you wanted to reach out to those people and send them kind of a personal message. Maybe I do last month. Um, and I want to see the people that only came in once. I can always check their names and send them a message saying, hey, it was so great to have you in the studio. We would absolutely love to have you back for another class. If it was a month ago, maybe you offer them an extended or intro offer, or you give them a comp class to come back in. But anything that might be helpful to get them to remember. And also, it's a great time to ask for feedback. So there's a good chance a lot of the people that are in here that only came that one time actually didn't have a good experience and maybe didn't like the offering or had a bad time with the teacher. So don't be shy. I think oftentimes we always want to hear the good. Obviously, that's natural, but you're going to learn a lot as a business owner hearing, especially on a one-to-one basis, personally from someone who didn't have a great experience, and you're going to get better as a result. So that's the first visits report. This one is pretty straightforward. I just wanted to make sure everybody was looking at this. This is also a great opportunity to look at anybody who only purchased a drop-in. So if you look at this, you can toggle to whoever purchased a drop-in specifically. I don't think I had any. But if you do, those are great opportunities to reach out and say, hey, I know you purchased a drop-in. We have this amazing new student special. I would be happy to extend it to you And, here's a link to purchase that. And you can create a non-intro offer version of a plan to sell to them specifically. I know many of you that have the Sales and Marketing Center probably have that automation already built. We can see here that's a very common one. So first visit drop-in, upselling them into a membership. But if you don't have the Sales and Marketing Center, the first visit report is a great place to go to actually see those people and manually send them a message to encourage them to come back. Um, Okay. Any questions there or anything that you've been curious about in that report? Okay, great. I will pop into our next report, which is kind of the follow-up to the first visit report, and this falls under that, monitoring the client journey experience, and that's gonna be our intro offer report. So the intro offer report, I will highlight right away, is only going to be for businesses that built their new student special as an intro offer in Walla. So that is a specific type of plan. Um, and when we go under plans and head to intro offers, I'm going to go in and see. Um, I'm going to apply yeah, I'll compare the two because I've got quite a few. I'll look at the last 6 months so we can see a good chunk of data. But in this case, I've got 2 intro offers I ran over 6 months, so I kind of wanna see them compared to each other. Now, the first thing to know is that this right at the top, whenever you see a little fire or a tile at the top of a report, we call that our action cards. And action cards typically are going to take you to a list of clients or a grouping of people that need action taken. So when I click on this, this is going to show me everybody who has expired in the last 20 to 60 days, 19 or fewer days ago, and then the people who are still active on the intro offer. Now, the reason this is so helpful, especially if you have a front desk staff team or a sales team that's going to be reaching out to folks during their new student special period, you can see here in one glimpse how many visits they've had and if they are opted into marketing. Because even if you have the core tier of Walla, you still have the option to use our pre-built journeys. And we have a really relatively robust intro offer nurture journey here. But that's only going to go out to people who are opted into your marketing. So you are going to be able to see right away if somebody is not in marketing, um, they're not getting any of your communication. So you might have somebody that came 8 times, but they've never gotten an email from you nudging them to purchase the intro offer, or maybe they didn't come to classes where there was a front desk staff to chat with them about it. So this is a great opportunity to, take a look at this with a snapshot, and then if there's somebody who never came in and they expired, perhaps emailing them and saying, "Hey, I'm going to extend this for you. We'll give you another week," or Devonte Adams here, while he's not playing in the NFL, was coming to 3 classes at my studio. But you can see that he came 3 times. His last visit was 41 days ago. But I can pop into his profile and I can see who are the teachers that he went to. He did take a number of different, 3 different classes when he came in. But he's a great example of somebody that I should just send a quick message to and say, "Hey, it was great having you in the studio. And it looks like you got to try a few of our classes. Now, what can we do to get you back in? Or is there anything that was missing for you?" So this is hopefully going to be helpful in giving some context to those sales conversations. And I don't know, I'll stop sharing for a minute because I think this is a helpful thing just for businesses that are really sales oriented. We're all looking for ways to have a little less awkward of a conversation, or a sales conversation that feels like it's not pushy or selling, that it truly is genuine care and maybe education oriented. And whenever you have this information, it's not just a scripted, like, "Hey, we miss you." Those of you who have been on webinars with me before, I have a really, it hits a nerve when I get "we miss you" emails from studios because most of them have the exact same language. They say the exact same thing. I know they're an auto email, and it just it doesn't feel genuine. So these are opportunities when we're giving you the list of clients, when we've got the stats and the data in their profiles, so you can reach out to them and have a really helpful conversation, and you've got something to talk about rather than just a scripted automated line. So that is the action part of the intro offer report. Now, when we go back in there, I'm going to show you where you can kind of set your goals. So when we go back into the intro offer report, and I'm going to select both of mine that I'm using right now and the last 6 months. So first of all, if you're a business that has multiple intro offers, this is a great way to compare and contrast. So you can see here my first class free, I didn't sell any. My 1 month for 39, I sold a ton. So this is going to be an easy one to compare and contrast. You will be able to track the conversion rates of the different intro offers and see which one is more effective. You may sell way more of one intro offer. Like if you have a first class free, you'll probably have tons of those, but you may not make much money on the conversions. And then you might look and say, okay, well, we also had a 1 month for 99 or 39, and I ended up making $8,900 on those conversions. I sold way fewer of them, but this is a great way, especially as you're going into the new year. For those of you that are expanding studios, going into new markets, the great thing about intro offers is you can test because it's not going to affect your existing clients. You can constantly, every few months if you see one not giving you the results you want, you can test another one against it, whether it's with a meta ad or sending emails out to an audience of folks who have given you their information but never purchased something. So that's all here. You can see your conversion rate here. You can see what they converted to, and then you can see the monthly recurring gain and the total revenue gain from that intro offer. So goal is really to make sure that you've got educated decisions and that, if you're trying to decide which intro offer is best for your business, you'll be able to see what's clearly making you more money and driving more people down the funnel rather than just kind of the vanity metric of, oh my gosh, we had tons of people in class today. Um, I often find that busy in studios doesn't tell the whole story, especially if you have a very inexpensive intro offer or you're leaning on something like ClassPass. Um, I'll pause there just to see if there are any questions on the intro offer report. I know that's a really commonly used report, but hopefully that illuminated some things about it. Okay, awesome. The next couple I'm going to go into are about your classes. And I'm going to preempt this by saying some of the data specifically on the class analysis report, if you are a heavy WellHub or ClassPass user, it won't be quite as relevant to you because we essentially assign $0 to ClassPass visits. We don't have the financial data from ClassPass, so we don't have a way of giving you accurate financials on those folks. But if you're not heavy ClassPass or WellHub, these can be really helpful reports for you. So let's go back into our report center, and under classes, you're going to find class analysis. Now, class analysis is one that, from a decision-making perspective, I find to be really helpful, especially when you're trying to look at setting goals for attendance for your staff members, and really deciding what types of classes to put on your schedule, what teachers to put on your schedule more. If you are a business that has all the same classes, if you're a Legree studio that has one type of Legree class all day long, you're really not going to need to play around with these class types much. But you will probably want to look at the staff members and see who's doing, what and how profitable they are. But the goal here really is to give you a big picture of how many people you've got coming in, really what they equal in revenue to you. So every time somebody comes to your studio, actually, let's look at this over a broader period of time. Um, again, this is a demo site, so I'm not checking people into it every day. That's why the revenue per class and per visit look a little funny. Um, but this is going to help you set goals. So if you know, for example, that most of your teachers are making $40 a class or 30 or 60, whatever it is that you're paying them, you know that your revenue per visit or revenue per class is X or Y. So you've got to set goals for yourself. You may find that you frankly can't afford to pay your teachers $60 a class or 50 or 40. And when you look at it by teacher, you'll be able to see profitability very quickly because we pull in the payroll information for them. Now, one thing I'll call out in all of our reports, anytime you see a little I or a little question mark, you will click on it. You will learn a lot. This is where you can see the formula we use essentially for getting to that number. So total revenue, you can see is quite long, but that's really because of the unlimited plans. We often get the question on this, how are you assigning revenue for an unlimited visit? So when we say, okay, great, revenue per visit is $22 or revenue per class is $150. That can vary because you have people with unlimited plans, and some people come one time a month, some people come 25 times a month. That's why we had to essentially build a formula for that. So we essentially start by determining the number of visits per month, and we confirm that that specific plan, so let's say your monthly unlimited, has been in existence for at least 60 days. So if you're a brand new studio, if you just came to Walla and it hasn't been in existence for 60 days, we're using a divisor of 5. So that's the average that we see across all businesses. If the plan is older than 60 days, we now create a segment of clients who have owned an active version of that plan when they took the class and own the plan for at least 30 days prior. And then we look at the average number of visits for all clients in that segment. So we're trying to give you essentially a number that you can work with so that you're not being skewed, having somebody's visit be worth, $200 and somebody else's visit be worth $8. So we're looking at an average across the board. Um, and then that's how we come to these revenue per class, revenue per visit, and total revenue numbers for those classes. I know that was a lot of kind of math, but we needed a single divisor to make this usable data and to really help you make decisions. Um, okay, so this report I think is really helpful to look at when you're analyzing teachers' pay, when you're analyzing what classes to put on your schedule, and also in general when you're looking at if there are, specific classes that are losing you money consistently. So you can either export or look through here. I mean, again, this is a demo site. They're all negative because I'm not checking a lot of people into class. But if you're consistently losing money, it's really nice to click in and kind of check it out. Or if you've got high earners. So if I go into this all levels Hatha class, anytime you click on these, it's going to give you an opportunity to look at the class analysis. And here, if you've, again, never looked at this, you can view the detail and it's going to show you what each individual is worth in that class, how much money they were worth to the studio. We use that same formula. As you can see here, the Fire and Flow Unlimited, $40, $40, because we have a different divisor than the monthly unlimited, different group of people. That one was $37. So this is pretty straightforward, but helps give visibility into what each individual is worth. Okay, I'll pause here. So filtering by payment method in the first visit report, you can toggle that so you can chunk them out, like you can see them alphabetically, then either one or the other, and you can do it in the export. Um, so that's what's possible right now. But if you've got feature requests on report, please just make sure you email them to support@HelloWalla, and you can just put feature request in the title. Okay, to be able to group or filter this class by daytime. Yeah, I know that is a pretty common request, and our team has been working on it. It's something we've talked about. So again, if you've never requested it, please do. The more we get specific requests, the more that moves things into our roadmap. So, and keep an eye on the product portal in the software because you'll be able to see what's planned and what's under construction. All right, last couple reports here I wanted to go into. For those of you that are appointment based or have more appointments in your business, kind of the complementary report to the class analysis report is going to be your appointment revenue report. So if I look at the last 60 days, this is where I'm going to be able to see my revenue for those. And essentially, this is kind of a combination, being able to see those first appointments, the number of appointments total, and then also be able to look at generally speaking, your teachers. You can look at this by staff, who's generating more revenue and what appointment types are generating more revenue. So those filters will help you get an understanding of where you're most likely to have attention on your schedule for appointments. Okay, couple more. Class attendance is a really fun one. This is something that I often tell clients not to just scroll through quickly because you actually can learn a lot from this report. First things first, I know if you're looking at this on your phone, you actually have to click on the bar, but on screen, when you hover over, you'll be able to see your utilization rate there, like checked in utilization rate, your capacity. You can also group this, like if you're looking at last week, for example, you can group it. No, hold on. Let me look at last month. You can group it by weeks or days. So some people want to see this. Just make sure you look at the grouping because sometimes people ask like, oh, I just want to see this by week or I just want to see this by day. So you can do that there. And again, hover state's going to help you with that utilization rate for the day. I want to call out here, sometimes studios do not put accurate capacity in when they're building out their Walla sites or in their classes. They put a really high number. That's going to impact this. So be true to your capacity as often as possible. It's really going to help you understand when you're hitting those high utilization rates and really need to add classes to your schedule. Or if you, again, if your bar chart looks like this, you probably want to remove some classes off of your schedule because you're simply not filling them and probably spending too much on payroll. Again, some of you guys only have one style of class, so this maybe is not going to be quite as applicable. But for those of you that have multiple styles of classes in your business, if I want to go to a group of time, I can look at what classes are performing better. So you can see your average fill rate over a certain period of time. So if I wanted to look at this over the last year, for example, this is going to give me a pretty broad range. And I can see right away that my Burn Boot Camp interval training is doing best from an average fill rate perspective. So this is going to show you all of that. Oops, scrolled a little too fast. Now, if you have classes that have very small capacity, you can decide to include those or not, because those are obviously going to look like high utilization rates if they're like a small group class. Maybe you call an appointment or a small group a class in Walla. You've got the option to include those or not. We naturally don't include those, but you can if you want to. This next one is going to be revenue focused. So when you look at, let's look at maybe September. I think I had quite a bit of visit history in September. I should have said at the beginning, again, this defaults to all locations. You can select your location, but this is where you're going to be able to see average revenue per class for that period of time. So when you're looking at different styles of classes, my Booty Burn is definitely averaging more revenue than almost anything else on the schedule. So they show up here alphabetically, but you can definitely see what's making you more money and what perhaps needs another look when you're taking a peek at adding classes to the schedule or removing. And then lastly, this is a little bit more granular. This is kind of your top performers versus your classes that maybe need to be removed from the schedule. So this is individual instances, time-stamped. So on January 21st, we had this awesome advanced Dutch tango with Brittany. So if all of the top performers are, Tuesdays at 1 p.m. with Brittany, that, maybe that's somebody that you want to give a little raise to or do something nice for her, make sure she doesn't go anywhere. But more importantly, if you have bottom performers that are consistently the same and they're trending over time down, those may be classes that you make some changes to. Maybe it's a style, maybe it's a teacher, maybe it's a time slot, but something needs to change on the schedule. So this is one of those that it's kind of a big report. It has a lot of information in it, but our goal here is to give you lots of angles to look at your schedule and make those scheduling decisions. And with that, you can also look at your teacher ranking report. So the teacher ranking report is meant to help you, like in that instance, the classes that are maybe your bottom performers or the classes that are generating the smallest amount of revenue. This is where you go next because you can see, is it a teacher problem? And if you see that, Alex is consistently at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to average fill rate, average clients, maybe reliability and profitability, then it probably is an Alex problem. Or there's training that needs to happen for that individual. But the goal here is to be able to see your teachers compared to each other and who your standouts are, who needs a little support and love and training. And also from a payroll perspective, it doesn't make sense to be losing money on your teachers month over month. I do encourage you to dive into these reports. And again, if you see the question mark, you're going to be able to get into how we came up with that formula for each one of these. Please, please, please look at those. It's going to be helpful. But when you go into each instructor, you'll be able to get a little bit more granular here. So you can see reliability, you can see how much money they are making you over a period of time or each month. And then also this part here is really telling. So if you have a teacher that has 100 unique clients, but 90% of them are only coming once to their class, it's probably they're just in a banger time slot and anybody's going to do well in that. So you might not want your highest paid teacher in that time slot. Or you might want to coach this instructor on how they can build relationships with clients a little bit better and send them a personal message after class, inviting them back. All right, I've got a couple quick ones to go through. I'm going to jump really fast into the KPIs report. For those of you that are multi-location, this is going to be a report where you can compare your studios next to each other. So again, I really encourage you to click on the I. This is going to give you detail on the formula. But when you open these up, we can see I've got 5 locations. I can see how they're doing. Obviously, my coast location is crushing it. But this is the financial tab, so I can see my recurring versus my total sales. And that's a really helpful metric, especially if you're a business really banking on predictability. I often hear the goal is to have 80% of your revenue be recurring. So this is a nice way to track that and see how each location is doing compared to others. Now, we get the question often, what is this number versus this number? Again, it's under the eye, but you can see the first number is the total paid so far. The second is what's expected to be paid. So if you had failed billing, that we were expecting that. And so that it'll be included in this number, but won't be included in there. Or if it hasn't yet been paid, but we're expecting it. So if I were looking at February, for example, this is what we're expecting in February, but nothing's been paid yet. We have a retention column here. So this is going to be kind of similar to that plan gain loss report that we looked at the beginning, but this way you can compare your locations next to each other and see your churn rates and your new canceled net. So this is going to be a really nice place to just see if you've got a problem with retention at one studio versus another. And then again, intro offers similar to our intro offer report. This is going to be the best place to compare your locations where you can see your conversion percentage and how many are sold. So, especially as you're opening new locations, for those of you that are franchises that are in growth mode, this is going to be really helpful as you're going into, um, how sustainable the pipeline is at some of those new locations after you get through pre-sales. All right, those are my main reports that we are going to go through today. I do want to let you know that I created a bit of a cheat sheet too for you guys. So if I go back into my webinar, or I'm sorry, my Google Sheet, I created a report for each role in the business, like a kind of, if you've got a head of programming, your operations and your finance folks, your sales, front desk folks that are tracking leads. This is kind of the cheat sheet of the reports that I would be looking at on a regular basis for each of those kind of buckets within the business. So this is going to be really helpful. And then we have a couple of things that I think will be nice for you guys that are just looking for little ways to surprise and delight your clients. And I think this is, oh, I didn't share that. I'm so sorry. Let me go back. This is the reports for each role. Sorry about that. The surprise and delight reports that we have in the software. These are just nice ways to touch base with clients at different points in their journey. So one is the left on the wait list report. And I don't have tons of people on my wait lists in my demo site. But for those of you that are low capacity, busy studios, you are going to naturally have people that get stuck on your wait list on a regular basis. And especially in January, you guys, when studios are busiest, this is when some of your most frequent members get the most frustrated, and you're really at risk for losing them. So this is a great report to run on maybe a monthly or a bi-monthly basis, just to check in and see, like, if Matthew's been left on a wait list 4 or 5 times over the last month, that's somebody that is at risk of canceling, because if they're paying a lot for their membership and not getting into classes, it's not worth it. But B, might just not be feeling very special. So this is somebody I would send a personal note to. I would text them. I would call them. I would invite them or make them your guest in the class. Do something to make sure that they know they mean a lot to your business. So this is going to be a really nice report to just give you guys, I don't know, a glimpse into the people that might need a little extra love. Another one that we released very recently, you guys, thanks to all of your requests, is our visits by client report. So for those of you that do challenges and you want to quickly be able to see within a period of time, so maybe last month you did a December challenge. You can see very quickly, if you toggle on the total, the people that came multiple times. Maybe you want to just see the people that hit certain number of visits. You can see it by location over on the side here, but this is going to be, specific to classes and appointments, or just classes or just appointments. And the good news is, for those of you that have just migrated to Walla, you can include migrated data in this as well. But this is going to be really helpful for those of you that are wanting to just high five students that maybe have taken a certain number of classes, have hit a certain milestone within a specific period of time, or just generally have been giving you a lot of business, and they're spending a lot of money with you, and you want to give them some love. So visits by client report, it is under clients. That is a pretty new report, so I just wanted to make sure everybody saw that. All right. The last thing I'm going to do is give you guys a sneak peek into audiences, because this is something that kind of works like a report in Walla. And if you have not added audiences to your dashboard, please do this week. It is like the 1-degree shift you can make in your business that could make a huge impact. Just as a quick reminder, audiences are essentially grouping your clients into a segment based on them meeting certain conditions. So let's say I want everybody in this audience that I built, for example, I want to see all of my members, my autopay members. So everybody who's an autopay member, raise your hand. Great. Um, Now, everybody who hasn't taken a class in the last 3 weeks, keep your hand up. Everybody else step back into line. So now I have a group of people who are active, paying autopay members who have not been into my studio in 3 weeks. So I can either create an automation if you're using the marketing suite that reaches out to them. I can have it be a task for one of my front desk staff to go through here, click on each person, and go through and text those folks and just say or email those folks if they don't have a phone number, and pop in to encourage them to get back into the studio. So that is a really, really helpful tool. And if you've never built audiences before, I highly encourage you to check out our sales and marketing course. I have a boatload of really helpful audiences with step-by-step videos on how to build them. It takes 2 minutes to build most of them, and it's really going to help you highlight people at those really important parts of their journey. Uh, the audiences feature on the dashboard is unique to everybody who's logged in. So if you are a teacher and you want your teachers to see a list of people who have a first class with them upcoming booking, you can create a condition, or I'm sorry, an audience. And the condition is anybody who has 0 visits with Laura in the past and has an upcoming booking with Laura in the future. And then Laura can go through this list and send them a quick text message. Maybe you create a snippet for them. So if you go to text someone, I have a phone number in here. I need someone with a phone number. If you go to text someone and they've got a phone number, you can use our snippet functionality where you've pre-written just a, first time class with Laura. Hey, excited to meet you tomorrow. Be sure to bring your grippy socks and water. We definitely get our sweat on in my classes. Again, it's another surprise and delight way you can use kind of our reporting functionality, our audience functionality in Walla. Again, the marketing suite course has a huge list of audiences that are really helpful. But these are just some examples that you could put onto your dashboard or just generally build to use for that personalized communication with your clients whenever they come in. All right. Any questions on that? I'm actually not going to dive into full questions. Oh, thanks, Beth. Um, Beth just shared the sales and marketing suite course link. I'm not going to go into full questions on how to build audiences because that could be another whole webinar in and of itself. Okay, awesome. Last thing, let's just go back into the presentation. So the client happiness, we went through these. Get creative with your audiences. You can get really granular in our audiences. So play around with conditions. You can see who lives in each one of those audiences, run them, view the contacts, reach out. Again, we will be sharing this recording with everyone who registered. If you are new to Walla or interested in Walla, you can absolutely book a full deep dive demo with our team, and we can go into some of these in more detail. We'll be sending the deck out here, so you'll have all of this. But overall, I just want to thank you guys for taking time to learn your software a little bit better this morning. It's hard to dedicate time to getting better at your business with these granular details, but these are the things that are really going to help move the needle, make your clients happier, and create sustainable systems that make your business profitable. So thank you all. Really, really appreciate it. It was lovely to have you. And the recording will be sent out in the next couple of hours. So keep your eyes out. We've got some exciting webinars coming up in the next month, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you so much.